So like for years, people who never actually played Saints Row 2 have quickly and lazily dismissed it as just another GTA clone. It's a game that never apologizes for what it is, and looking back at it now, it serves as a reminder of a time when video games were allowed to just be unapologetically fun. So, let's kick it off with its story, cause honestly the narrative here goes so much harder than it has any right to. So like the game picks up 5 years after the explosive ending of the original Saints Row. And if you played the first game, you probably remember that it ended with you getting blown up on a yacht. Well, now your character wakes up from a very long coma in a prison hospital, and cause of all the burns you suffered in the explosion, you have like undergone some surgery, which is an excuse for letting you redesign your character from the ground up. So you wake up to discover that the beloved 3rd Street Saints have been disbanded and their legacy has been forgotten. Their territories have been taken up by these 3 new criminal syndicates, and the Saints' old neighborhood has been gentrified into a sterile corporate utopia by this sinister Alter Corporation. Anyways, with the help of a fellow inmate named Carlos Mendoza, you break out of the prison and immediately set out to rebuild the Saints from scratch. But what follows is absolutely not a heroic tale of redemption. I gotta make this clear, cause like you don't play as some misunderstood anti-hero with a heart of gold. You actually play as a cold-blooded sociopath with a death count in the thousands, someone who's more interested in ruling an entire city than making peace. And the game handles its primary antagonists brilliantly by dividing the city of Stillwater among 3 rival factions. And you can like tackle these gangs in any order you want, and the narrative arcs for each of them are just brutal and pretty emotional at the same time.
I might like to have a belated conjugal before the PTA meeting. Not at all.
First up, we have the Brotherhood. So these guys are a gang of heavily tattooed outcast bikers led by a behemoth named Myro, who's actually voiced by Michael Dorn. Early in the game, he actually approaches you and offers a peaceful 80-20 split of the city's profits. But insulted by this offer, you like start a blood feud that quickly spirals into some of the most creatively reprehensible acts in a video game. So like first you swap Myro's tattoo ink with radioactive waste, permanently disfiguring his face. So in retaliation, the Brotherhood kidnaps your young protege, Carlos. And in a scene that's still hard to watch today, they chain Carlos to a truck and drag him through the streets. By the time you stop the truck, Carlos is missing most of his skin and is beyond saving. So he kinda like nods at you, making you do a mercy kill by shooting him in the head. But then the revenge you exact for this is legendary, but in utter cruelty. So you kidnap Myro's girlfriend Jessica, lock her in the trunk of her own car and park it in a monster truck rally. Myro, who's driving the monster truck, unknowingly crushes the love of his life to the cheers of an adoring crowd, only to pop open the trunk and see what he's done. It's a sequence that left me completely speechless, and it shows a level of visceral darkness that the franchise never touches again. Then you have the Ronin, which are these katana-wielding Japanese syndicate. Led by an immature and an arrogant Shogo Akuji and his ruthless enforcer Junichi, the Ronin engage in a full-blown turf war with the Saints, complete with motorbike chases and sword fights. But the emotional gut punch of this storyline comes when they come to Aisha's home. Junichi then brutally murders Gat's girlfriend Aisha by decapitating her and then stabs Gat with his sword. The sheer shock value of Aisha's death, followed by Gat's horrific recovery and your subsequent revenge, takes the narrative like far beyond anything. And the climax of this blood feud is incredibly grim, so like after destroying Ronin operations, you eventually corner Shogo at her funeral. And instead of just shooting him, Gat beats him down, tosses him into an open grave, and buries him alive, cementing the Saints as the most terrifying force in Stillwater. So the third gang is the Sons of Samedi, and they deal in a highly addictive drug called Loa Dust. And they're led by the General and his voodoo practicing right-hand man, Mr. Sunshine. So this arc involves working closely with your stoner Lieutenant Shondi to dismantle their drug infrastructure. And it gets personal when her ex-boyfriend DJ Veteran kidnaps her, forcing you to shoot your way through a nightclub to rescue her and put a bullet in him. You eventually confront Mr. Sunshine in this bizarre boss fight in a meatpacking plant, and later take down the General in a shootout at a shopping mall. So like overarching all of this gang warfare is the Alter Corporation, run by this slimy executive Dane Vogel. And Alter represents the true evil of modern gentrification, having spent over $300 million turning the crime-ridden streets into an urban utopia. They use a highly trained private military contractor force known as the Masako to try and eradicate the Saints so they can build a sterile, corporate-owned city. And the narrative brilliantly stitches these threads together, ending in an all-out assault on Alter's HQ, So the game ends with you chasing Vogel to his office and executing him with a gunshot to the head, sending him plummeting to the streets below and leaving the Saints as the undisputed rulers. And for the hardcore fans, there's actually a hidden mission where you track down Julius, the OG founder of the Saints who betrayed you in the first game. You confront him, and despite his pleas that you're someone who ruined his vision, you shoot him dead, tying up the last loose end of your past. And I feel like the whole thing is decently paced, with some genuine character development and dark themes that make every single victory feel earned. Okay, so let's transition over to the visuals and the art style, because to evaluate how Saints Row 2 looks today requires a certain level of forgiveness. And let's be honest here, even when it released back in 2008, it wasn't winning any praise for its graphical fidelity. The character models sometimes look like action figures, the animations have this distinct stiffness, and the texture pop-in can occasionally be downright atrocious. Also, the lighting system is incredibly basic, and the color palette has that washed-out mid-2000s bloom effect. Yet, despite the muddy textures and the undeniable visual jank, the art direction and the world design, I believe, completely overshadow its shortcomings. Stillwater is still a pretty good open-world city. Like Volition took the map from the first game and expanded it by over 50%. Unlike the flat and lifeless Steelport that we got in Saints Row the Third, Stillwater still feels alive and packed with personality. And as you drive around, you transition from neon-lit districts to suburbs, trailer parks, a university, high-end boardwalks, and a lot more. And the attention to detail is just staggering for its time. The NPCs also engage with the world and react to the sheer chaos unfolding around them. The city somehow feels lived in, and learning its back alleys and shortcuts becomes second nature. But where I feel the visual design truly shines and where it absolutely embarrasses modern gaming is in its customization. The character creator is pretty cool, you have sliders from 1 to 100 for everything. And this customization actually extends beyond just the physical appearance. You get to choose your character's personality, selecting from 6 distinct voice actors. You can also choose taunts, ranging from flipping the bird to acting like you're taking a dump. So the level of ownership you feel over your character and your gang is just incredible, and the visuals actually support this sense of ultimate progression.
Just for you.
Now let's get into the meat and potatoes, the gameplay mechanics. So it's basically a third-person open-world action game, but it's injected with an unfiltered dose of absurdity. So the core gameplay loop requires you to engage in these side activities to earn respect, which acts kinda like a currency to unlock the main story missions. Now I know that to some modern gamers, this might sound like forced grinding, but I promise you, the activities here are so ridiculously entertaining that it rarely feels like a chore. And when it comes to driving, the cars have this arcadey physics, and the overall driving is fast and pretty forgiving. Also, there are a lot more vehicles compared to the first game, like helicopters, boats, jet skis, and motorbikes. And the combat is just super bloody and really fun. You can also grab people and use them as human shields. The weapon selection is also pretty decent, moving beyond standard assault rifles and shotguns. You get katanas with unique execution animations, chainsaws, satchel charges, and even a set of shock paddles that you unlock by completing ambulance missions. But anyways, I think the lifeblood of the game's mechanics are in its activities. And these don't feel like afterthoughts to pad the runtime. Okay, maybe sometimes they do, but they actually provide some of the most memorable moments. First, you have Fuzz, which is a brilliant parody of reality TV police shows like Cops. You drive a patrol car with a cameraman, and you're then responding to crimes with wildly inappropriate police violence. 1 minute you're beating people with a baton, and the next you're breaking up some dispute with a freaking rocket launcher. Then there's Septic Avenger, where you drive a sewage truck and spray liquid human shit all over houses, cars, and police officers to lower the city's property values. It's so out there, but it just works in this game, you know? Anyways, you also have insurance fraud, where you intentionally throw yourself into busy intersections to rack up fraudulent injury claims. There's also crowd control, where you work as a celebrity bodyguard and protect VIPs by grabbing crazy fans and physically throwing them into deadly obstacles. And you can't forget trailblazing, where you ride a four-wheeler that's permanently engulfed in flames, racing through checkpoints while attempting to set as many pedestrians and vehicles on fire as possible, gaining extra time for every screaming victim you ignite. Okay, look, there are actually a lot more of these activities, and they create this chaotic feedback loop where you're constantly rewarded for your most destructive, unhinged impulses. And the game understands that the appeal of a sandbox is the freedom to break the rules, and it provides exactly that. So look, if you're looking to conquer Stillwater, the time investment is substantial but highly rewarding. Like if you focus strictly on blasting through the main story alongside a healthy chunk of side activities and stronghold takeovers, that will bump you up to around 30 hours. And if you're an absolute completionist who wants to see every single piece of content, find every collectible, tag every piece of graffiti, and max out every activity, you can easily sink over 50 hours into this game. So does Saints Row 2 actually hold up today? Honestly, analyzing this game nearly 2 decades after its release requires you to acknowledge its undeniable flaws. The graphics have aged like milk, the animations are stiff, and the enemy AI is pretty inconsistent. But if you're willing to strip away the dated polygons and the technical jank, what remains is an undisputed pinnacle of open-world sandbox design. It offers a level of freedom and unfiltered fun that modern AAA titles are terrified to even attempt. It features a shockingly dark narrative wrapped up in an insane absurdity. And to fully appreciate this masterpiece, you only need to look at the 2022 reboot. The contrast between these two titles is a heartbreaking example of a studio completely losing touch with its own identity, its fanbase, and the core appeal of its IP. Where Saints Row 2 was edgy, dark, and offensive, the reboot was a sterile, cringe-inducing disaster. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.